If you had $1 million saved for retirement, why would you still feel afraid? It sounds unreasonable, doesn't it? $1 million is supposed to mean freedom, passive mind, finally being able to exhale. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Many Americans who already have more than $1 million still wake up every morning with the same quiet fear. What if I don't make it to the end of my life? Look at this number. Using the 4% rule, $1,000 only produces about $40,000 a year. Meanwhile, the average U.S. household over age 65 spends more than $50,000 a year. So what does that mean? Even if you did everything right, even if you reach the number everyone dreams about, you can still feel behind. And that fear is not small. Even more paradoxical, many studies show that a large number of retirees end their lives with more money than they started with, yet they spend their later years anxious, overly cautious, and waiting for a disaster that never actually comes. So where is the real problem? Is it the money? Or is it the way we've been taught to fear retirement? If you've ever asked yourself, how much is enough? Or, what if I retire and make a mistake? If you're tired of financial advice that always makes you feel like you're never quite enough, stay here for a moment. My name is Mike. Why 1 million no longer feels safe? There's a hard truth we need to say out loud. 1 million no longer feels wealthy and stunned mine, especially when you enter retirement. Not because it's a small amount, but because the way our brains interpret that number changes completely once we stop working. Let's start with the simplest calculation everyone has heard of, the 4% rule. With $1 million, you can withdraw about $40,000 a year and try not to run out of money over a 30-year retirement. Now ask the practical question, is $40,000 a year enough to live on? According to data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average U.S. household over age 65 spends more than $50,000 per year. That includes housing, healthcare, insurance, food, and transportation, not luxury. So what happens? The moment you retire, your brain immediately sees a $10,000 annual shortfall. And the brain doesn't respond with logic. It responds with fear. The issue isn't total net worth. The issue is that $1 million suddenly shrinks into a monthly paycheck. When you're working, you think, I have $1 million. But in retirement, all you see is, I have about $3,300 a month. And everything changes. $3,300 a month doesn't sound like success. It sounds like a budget you need to watch carefully. Add inflation to that. $40,000 today doesn't buy what $40,000 did 10 or 20 years ago. Your brain automatically projects future risks, rising healthcare costs, market declines, longer life expectancy. And here's the key point. This fear isn't a math mistake. It's a completely natural psychological reaction when humans move from accumulating money to spending it. It's not the $1 million that scares you. It's having to live on it. And that feeling explains why so many people reach 7 figures, yet still can't bring themselves to walk away from work. The retirement industry is built on fear. Let's ask an uncomfortable but important question. Who actually benefits when you constantly feel like you don't have enough to retire? The answer isn't you. The entire retirement industry, investment firms, asset managers, advisory models, is built around keeping you saving, investing, and most importantly, worrying. Look at how retirement plans are usually presented. They don't say, you'll probably be fine. They say, if the market crashes, if you live too long, if inflation stays high, if everything goes wrong at once, you might run out of money. Technically, that's true. Psychologically, it's a perfect fear engine. Many retirement models, especially Monte Carlo simulations, assume worst-case scenarios playing out continuously over 30 to 40 years. If there's even a small chance of failure, the conclusion is always the same. You should save more. Based on assumptions published by firms like Fidelity and Vanguard, these models prioritize system safety, not life comfort. Here's the conflict. No one gets punished for you saving too much, but someone gets blamed if you run out. So everything tilts in one direction, maximum conservatism. The result? People enter their 60s with large portfolios, paid off homes, and stable social security income, yet a single thought loops endlessly in their minds. What if? What if the market crashes? What if I live to 95? What if healthcare costs explode? That fear isn't a personal failure. It's been carefully cultivated. The most dangerous part is this. The retirement system is designed to make sure you're never wrong, but the price is that you never feel ready to stop. That's why so many people with over $1 million keep working, not because they need the money, but because they've been taught that retirement itself is a risk. The real fear isn't running out of money, it's losing control. There's a psychological shift few people talk about, but it explains nearly all retirement anxiety. When you retire, you lose the feeling that money is still coming in. During your working life, money has a rhythm, a paycheck every month, raises, bonuses, or at least the belief that you could earn more. The human brain loves that predictability. Retirement flips it completely. Money stops flowing in and starts flowing out. Mathematically, it's just a withdrawal. Psychologically, it's a shock. Humans are wired to hate losses. According to classic research by Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky, losing $1 hurts more than twice as much as gaining a new one feels good. That's the problem. When you're working, every expense feels reversible. It's okay, I'll earn it back. In retirement, your brain says, this money isn't coming back. That sense of irreversibility makes every spending decision heavy. Not because you don't have enough, but because you no longer have labor as a reset button. That's why people with $1 or $2 million still feel uneasy. They're not afraid of the number. They're afraid of a mistake they can't undo. Add uncertainty to that. You don't know how long you'll live. You don't know what markets will do. You don't know how high healthcare costs will rise. When the brain faces too many unknowns, it does what it always does. It exaggerates risk. So instead of enjoying freedom, many retirees live defensively. They skip trips they dreamed about. They delay experiences they waited decades for, not because they lack money, but because they're trying to maintain control by doing nothing. This is the bitter irony of retirement. You have more money than ever before, yet feel less control than ever before. And when humans feel out of control, fear, it's a perfectly natural response. The shocking truth. Most retirees don't spend all their money. This is the part many people struggle to believe at first. Most American retirees don't just avoid running out of money, they die with more than they started with. It sounds backwards, but the data tells a different story than our fears. Long-term studies on retirement spending behavior from Morningstar show that most retirees don't withdraw assets as aggressively as theory suggests. In reality, spending tends to decline with age, not rise steadily. Why? First, life naturally contracts. After age 70, many people travel less, drive less, shop less, and have fewer social expenses. Not because life becomes miserable, but because real needs change. Second, the largest expense, housing, is often resolved. Many retirees enter retirement with paid-off homes, no dependent children, and no pressure to save for the future. Actual cash flow needs are far lower than imagined. Third, there's a psychological paradox. The more people fear running out of money, the less they spend, which causes their portfolios to grow. According to the Federal Reserve's Survey of Consumer Finances, the median net worth of Americans aged 65 to 74 is about $10,000. Yet most in this group still report feeling comfortable. That tells us something important. Financial security doesn't scale linearly with wealth. Many people with over $1 million look forward and see only risk. Others with far less feel calmer because they understand their real lifestyle, not worst-case spreadsheets. The problem is this. Retirement models are designed to prevent failure. Life, however, doesn't run on spreadsheets. When you fully internalize pessimistic projections, you may unintentionally trade your healthiest years to protect money you may never need to fully use. That's why many people aren't short on retirement savings, they're short on permission to live. The problem isn't $1 million, it's how you define enough. After all the numbers, models, and fears, we come back to the core question: how much is enough to retire? For many people, the instinctive answer is a little more than I have now. That's the trap, because enough in retirement isn't a fixed number. It's a psychological concept, not a financial target. Consider two common scenarios. Person A has $2 million, a large portfolio, paid off home, no debt. Yet they can't retire because one thought keeps looping. What if there's one more bad market cycle? Person B has $600,000, much less on paper, but they have no mortgage, low spending, and something crucial: Social Security. According to the Social Security Administration, the average benefit in 2025 is about $1,276 per month, or roughly $23,700 per year. For person B, that's not a bonus, it's a foundation. When you combine investment income, Social Security, and naturally lower spending with age, the picture looks very different than a standalone $1 million. Here's the most important part few people say out loud. If you don't define enough before retirement, you'll never recognize it when you reach it. The human brain moves goalposts. Today it's 1 million. Tomorrow it's 1.2, then 1.5. There's no natural stopping point. Not because you're greedy, but because you're searching for safety. Something money alone doesn't automatically provide. Retirement isn't about maximizing assets. It's about optimizing life within a finite time. And the final irony is this: when you understand what you truly need to live according to your values, fear begins to fade, even if the number doesn't change. $1 million can't answer the question of enough. Only you can. And once you answer it honestly, the fear that's followed you for years finally starts to lose its grip. If you had $1 million saved for retirement, would you truly feel at peace? This isn't a question meant to scare you or to prove anyone right or wrong. It's simply a human question. Because for many people, $1 million once represented absolute security, a destination, proof that they did everything right. But when you talk to real people who've reached it, the feeling isn't relief. It's something quieter, lingering worry. Retirement research shows that many people with over $1 million still fear living too long, market declines, and rising healthcare costs. Not because they're uninformed, but because they're entering a new stage of life where money no longer flows in automatically. The lesson here isn't that you need more money, it's that money and peace of mind don't always arrive together. If you've ever believed that reaching a certain number would make all worry disappear, this video is for you. Subscribe if you want conversations about money and retirement that are calm, realistic, and free of judgment. And before we continue, ask yourself honestly, what actually makes you feel safe when you think about retirement?